Well, Jim Chalmers' second budget is something of a perilous tightrope act. He is trying to give a bit to everyone while not putting pressure on inflation. Let's bring you up to speed with some of the key points. 1.1 million Australians on JobSeeker, AusStudy and Youth Allowance will get an extra $40 per fortnight. The boost is bigger for over 55s, who will now be on the same payments as over 60s. Rent assistance is also lifting by 15%. And single parents will now be able to stay on the parenting payment until their youngest child turns 14. One of the big takeaways is a package to bolster Medicare. In fact, a tripling of the incentive for doctors to provide free consultations to 11.6 million eligible Australians. And there's a new rebate for longer consultations as part of the budget as well. And as for our collective enemy, inflation, well, Treasury says it's not going to be as bad as expected, reaching 6% this year and falling to 3.25% next year, by which time our wages will be growing just as slightly faster than the cost of living. Lots of pressures, lots of domestic and global headwinds, but the Treasurer told Parliament last night, in his view, this budget is both responsible and balanced.
Mr Speaker, the budget we present to the Australian people tonight provides cost of living relief that is responsible and affordable and prioritises those most in need. It delivers historic investments in Medicare and the care economy, making it easier and cheaper for Australians to see their doctor. It broadens opportunity by breaking down the barriers of disadvantage and exclusion. It lays the foundations for growth by embracing clean energy and investing in value-adding industries, people, skills, technology and small business. And it strengthens the budget with a surplus forecast for this year with less debt than smaller deficits compared with recent budgets. Yeah. These are the foundations on which our government is building a stronger economy and a fairer society.
The Treasurer Jim Chalmers at the House of Representatives last night delivering his second budget. Joining me here on this positively balmy Canberra morning is our political correspondent Steph Boris. Steph, good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike, and welcome to cold Canberra. We've put on quite the weather for you.
Loving every moment of it. Now, Jim Chalmers was walking something of a perilous pathway last night. Yes, he's got that 4.2 budget surplus at this stage, not fully confirmed this financial year. But he does not want to feed the inflation monster, and it's going to be a balancing act for the years ahead, isn't it?
It is a really fine line. He insists that the cost of living measures they announced last night is not going to increase inflation, but economists say you do have to watch what the RBA does in coming months. This budget, I think, is very different to some of the most recent ones we've had. Consider the fact we haven't really seen high vests, we haven't seen tradies. There isn't a focus on business this time around. The focus is on the vulnerable community, those doing it the toughest with these cost of living problems that most of us are facing at the moment. And while they've announced a range of measures, many say they haven't gone as far as what was expected. But once again, this is all about not trying to fuel inflation, and there isn't that much money to spend. I know there's a surplus expected, but we've got to be careful. And also deficits for as far as the eye can see after that. Let's look at the JobSeeker payment, $40 per fortnight, which equates to $2.85 per day. Welfare groups, the likes of ACOS, are saying that is nowhere near enough. No, not at all. They were pushing for a much higher rate, hoping for, in the end, about getting just over $70 a day. This, while is an acknowledgement that JobSeeker is not enough, doesn't go far enough, but the Treasurer last night saying they just don't have the cash to spend. It did go further than what had been speculated. We know that from age 55 and up, they do get a higher rate now, but everyone gets a little bit more. What was new for us last night was the rent assistance. So we know housing in Australia, there's an issue with supply and with people being able to afford rental accommodation. So rent assistance is going up by $31 a fortnight. Once again, though, in the scheme of things, how much is that going to help people? But on the other side, something is better than nothing. And Medicare is the other big ticket item, $3.5 billion to try to get GPs to offer more bulk billing to patients. But the focus is on concession card holders and kids under the age of 16. Yeah, so it is reined in the sense it's not for everyone. And a question was put to the Treasurer last night that, of course, and to be expected, there's a focus on vulnerable Australians. What about middle income Australians? Many of them have mortgages, interest rates we know are rising. morning, his response was, well, Medicare is something that will help, families with kids under the age of 16. And we know that seeing a doctor at the moment is incredibly expensive. But the big question in the end, Michael, is revenue long term. Where is the government going to find the money it needs, especially with big programs like defence, the NDIS? So some really big political decisions this government has to make in the future. They've kind of put them aside for now.